In the last video, we talked about how authors of commentary use anecdotes to really stir compassion. And now we're going to shift and look at other types of evidence that authors use in commentary to really make a compelling or convincing argument about their theme or their message. Okay, so I'm going to remind you a little bit about what you've learned about evidence in previous grade levels, so 6th and 7th. You may remember this guy, Emeril Lagasse, and he is a famous chef, right? So this is an anecdote I'm using. But when he would be taping his food shows, he'd notice kind of people falling asleep because they would tape all day, right? And so he started going like, and like waking people up when he had an important point to make. And that analogy is what we want to do with other kinds of evidence that you have in your paper, right? You want to make sure you have the right evidence and it's going to prove your point. It matches the claim that you're making in your paragraph. Hey, we know that we have a variety that we can use, quotes, facts, anecdotes, and you've done some considerable work with those in 6th and 7th grade. Okay, so as we think about what 8th graders, what we want to really do is what Emeril Lagasse does. We want you as writers to pack a punch, like bam, wake your author or your reader up to your point so that they are right there with you, right? You want them nodding their head along with you, like, yeah, I totally get it. I'm right there with you. Okay, so let's look at some of the moves that authors use in order to do that. Also, a little note, because I forgot to say it, you also want to make sure that you have just the right amount of evidence. So when you have highlighted your paper today, you want evidence pretty regularly throughout. It's not a traditional paper where you have, 5 paragraphs, but pretty regularly throughout, and you want to make sure that that is balanced with the commentary, your analysis that you're making. So if you don't have a lot of highlighting, you're going to want to add more evidence. If you have tons of highlighting, right, you need to pull some of that out so that you can add your own analysis. So as a writer, I really want to include evidence that's going to do work for me. So if I can say it myself, I don't need a quote to do that, right? But when I'm picking evidence, I want to look for an example of the idea, a reason for my claim, or an expert adding depth to it, okay, so that it's doing work for me. And another way to make our quotes do work for us is by adding credibility. Okay, so what's credibility, right? Like, the scandal undermined her credibility as an honest position. The lawyer's job is to make the jury doubt the credibility of the witness, right? So credibility is that quality of being trusted. Okay, so we can add a person's credibility, why I should trust them, into the quote. Let's take a look at this example. So in the first example, we have in the WebMD article, Home Remedies for Bronchitis by Neha Pathak, MD, which stands for Medical Doctors. It says honey has been used as medicine, right? On the other hand, we have this one. For example, on the blog, Jill's Home Remedies, Jill recommends this, blah, 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 right? So in the first one, I have this credibility from WebMD. It's a recognized source. Also, it's been reviewed by a medical doctor, so I know there's some expertise behind this. In the second example, I'm like, who's Jill? Why should I believe Jill? What qualifications does she have to tell me to put these things into my body because they're going to treat bronchitis, right? So adding credibility to your claim is a move that you should regularly be using as an 8th grader so that your evidence is doing work for you and helping your reader nod their head with you and say, yes, I agree with the conclusion that you're putting out there. I'm going to put this in here because it's, again, a review of some of that work that you did in 6th and 7th grade. But if you want to see, like, how do I really put my quote in there, transition it in, giving it that context and naming the source, there's an example here where you can see some of that. So I want you to have that anchor chart because it's good to review that as we're working again with evidence. Okay, this next piece is really about the 8th grade work of angling evidence. So again, we want our evidence to do some work for us. But I'll tell you this, most of the time, you're not going to find the exact quote that matches your perspective entirely. Or you might not choose to use it because, again, we want our quotes to do some work for that. So 8th grade writers, you're going to take that evidence and you want to angle it. This gets a little bit into analysis, which we're going to talk about tomorrow, right? But you want to unpack it to show exactly how it supports your commentary, your message, your theme. Okay, so in my mind, the analogy I do is you're taking your reader by the hand and you are walking them through your thinking. Okay, so in this example, the author's writing about some role-playing games and whether kids should play them. Okay, and he has this example about this game Killer, where the judge makes a pie chart of death, right? So who are you going to kill and in what order? And it gets distributed. Okay, and so this judge is saying, I'm looking for some good massacres early. I've arranged at least one boyfriend-girlfriend kill that should be interesting. Okay, so here's the work, 8th graders. You should be able to take that evidence and angle the same evidence for different points of view. Okay, so read these 2 examples here. Go ahead and pause me while you do that. So in this example, one author really takes the evidence and says, look at the leadership possibilities, right? And the other one says, whoa, this is way too much power. Look at all the dynamics that they're setting up, okay? And really what they're doing is they're adding their own commentary and they're really selecting specific verbs to show what this illustrates or argues or makes clear. So as you think about moving on from your evidence, okay, it's okay if you don't find that perfect evidence that says exactly what you wanted it to say, because you as an author can angle that and help the reader see. Okay, so today for your work time, we're going to do several things. So you're going to open your rough draft document, and any of the changes that you make about evidence, we're going to want you to put that in blue. So change your font color to blue. You'll have to do it several times as you move throughout your paper. Okay. So 1, make sure you have that variety of evidence that is balanced between, hey, I have just enough evidence and I've got some anecdotes, I've got a quote, a fact, or a statistic in there, okay, and that you have those different types. Then go back to where you're using your anecdote and figure out, how do I take those details to really highlight my theme or message? How do I speed it up or slow it down? How do I pull out those sensory details so that my reader's like, yes, I'm so compassionate about this part that's related to my theme or message. And then for those other pieces around quotes, facts, or statistics, use that purposeful language and context to angle your evidence and also provide that credibility so it's really doing the work for you. And that's our work for today. Hope you have a great day.